Encouraging, educating, and empowering you into action. This is Warriors Talk with your host, Lady ReShell.
Hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we move away from awareness towards action. It's Health and Wellness Monday, and our topic for today is Breaking the Silence, Understanding PCOS. We are live on Intellectual Radio. We just heard from the Drive F5 with Roman. Keep it locked right here on Intellectual Radio and allow us to feed your brain. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, breast cancer advocate author Marquita Bass discussed her new book, Orange is the New Pink. You can head over to YouTube and type in Intellectual Radio and stay connected for any episodes you may have missed. The quote of the day is, PCOS does not define you. It's simply a part of your story, not the entire story. We are so grateful for our sponsor. We have Pastor Michael Richardson with the Emanuel Church of God in Christ, who has a special message for us.
Greetings, I am Pastor Michael Richardson.
And I am First Lady Anastasia Richardson from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We're located at 3058 West Van Buren in Chicago, Illinois. We are building upon a solid foundation.
And we're inviting you to join us every Sunday morning on Facebook Live at Emanuel COGIC at 10:15 Central Standard Time. And you can also view our videos on our YouTube channel at Emanuel COGIC-MR. Once again, this is Pastor Michael Richardson
and First Lady Anastasia Richardson. And we're from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We are building upon a solid foundation.
If you are tuned in on any form of social media, like the show, share the show, and invite someone else in on the show that you feel may benefit from this valuable information. Our special guest today, who is no stranger to Warriors Talk, is our healthy solution expert with over 20 years experience as a family physician, and she is impacting lives every single day. Dr. Michelle Meeks. What's up, Doc?
Hello. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Happy Monday. It was like a summer day today.
I know. Oh, beautiful. And it's funny because I just got outside like less than 5 minutes ago. I'm like, oh my goodness, I missed this.
I know.
Especially for October.
Yeah, we'll enjoy every minute because we know what's going to come. It's not going to be pretty.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Michelle, for speaking at the gala. Your health and wellness speech was on point, letting everybody know that they can start a new beginning before and after a cancer diagnosis. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, you are so welcome. It was really my pleasure to just be there. And thank you for inviting me and just to be in the presence of the survivors who are battling and, thriving. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so we had a total of 96 guests at the Survivor Celebration. I gave away 21 swag bags and awards to survivors. We also crowned a Survivor of the Year who was Paula Kelly. And then we gave away $1,000 to our Warrior in Battle, Vivica Gibson Williams. So it was definitely a success. I had put on Facebook that I was trying to raise $2,500 and I exceeded that. So everybody just came through and I'm just so grateful. Just allowing us to have an amazing event. So I'm glad you got to witness that.
Yes. And kudos to you, right? Turning your struggles into strength and triumph and sharing your gift with others. So we appreciate you as well.
Yes, thank you. For me, it's about the celebration because there's so much negative that comes with a cancer diagnosis. So if you can have one day where you can celebrate and you can have something to take away with it and just, put it in your mind and replay it, like that's an awesome, it's an awesome thing to have. So yeah, mission accomplished. So I'm excited.
Yay, good.
Well, we have an amazing topic today. This particular topic, I feel like it doesn't get enough coverage at all. Like I really have not heard about this topic until I want to say last year. So our topic is breaking the silence, understanding PCOS. And I know a lot of people are like, wait, what's going on? What is that?
Right, right. You're right on a lot of levels because we're not really talking about it, right? Polycystic ovarian syndrome. You really don't, no one talks about it unless it's affecting them, right? And so people don't know what it is. They may have heard that acronym before, but not sure what it is. And I mean, in simple terms, it's really a hormonal imbalance in women. It's, that affects your estrogen, progesterone. We all carry some male hormones as well, but for women with PCOS, they carry too many male hormones called androgens, and it just really puts your body out of balance, and you can have specific symptoms related to that. But no one really talks much about it. But I'm glad that you're bringing it up, and we can sort of delve into exactly what it is, who it affects, and how you can be evaluated for it.
Yes, yes. It says PCOS affects 7 to 10% of women in their childbearing age. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, that's like 5 million women, right? And it's quite common. And, just to kind of jump into some of the symptoms, because some of the symptoms a lot of women might experience and just think it's really nothing, right? The first thing is irregular periods, right? So irregular menstrual cycles. How many women don't have that at some point in their lives, right? But there's other symptoms that may come along with that make us think, oh, well, maybe there's something else going on, right? So irregular menstrual cycles is one of them. And what really polycystic ovaries, is that your ovaries are not making the hormones that it should in a normal, regular, cyclical way. It produces too much estrogen at some points, too much androgen, those male hormones at other points. Sometimes if it's producing too much estrogen, you're not really ovulating. And ovulation is when your ovary matures an egg, right? That egg then gets released and travels to your uterus, waits for sperm. If there is no sperm, then you have a menstrual cycle. And that's kind of the cycle that should happen. But with PCOS, your ovaries aren't making and maturing that egg like it should. So you end up making like a lot of little eggs that then turn into cysts in your ovaries. And those cysts then produce this hormonal imbalance. And so that's a simpler way to think about it, is that your ovaries and your system is not producing the right balance of those hormones, which produces a lot of symptoms.
I heard somebody explain it like your brain and your ovaries have a miscommunication. So it's like, oh, the ovaries are doing their own thing and not listening to the brain.
Yeah, that's part of it too, because the brain signal, right? Everything happens from the brain, right? So the brain signals our ovaries to produce the right hormones in the right way at the right time. And when that is out of alignment, you can have this problem with the ovaries. We're not really sure what causes that to happen. What's the first thing that causes that misalignment, that causes you to not produce the hormones in the right way? We know there are certain things that are kind of linked, but there's no real specific cause.
So I'm just doing research for the show. I heard one doctor say that sometimes it starts with the mother and what she is doing during that pregnancy. What she's eating, is she having movement, and it passes down to that egg, and then it may not develop right away, but then eventually it will develop to where that person will get some of those things passed down.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we know there's some genetic components, like if the mother and the sister had PCOS, that the child could have that. So we think there may be some genetic component, and is that related to some environmental things too, right? What we eat, what we're drinking, if mom is obese, and mom has hormonal imbalance. So there's not a clear-cut picture, but we certainly think that there's some genetic and maybe environmental factors to it. And then we see it when the child, even as young as 11 or 12, right, supposed to have a period, a menstrual cycle, or having some other complaints, then we go looking for it.
Okay, so you're more likely, so the people who are at risk are the ones who have a family member, mother, sister, who has already have or been diagnosed with PCOS, and more than likely you may be. So the same thing we say when it comes to cancer, if you have that information, talk to your doctor about it ahead of time so they can kind of, look for things, or in advance, they can do some things that will help you maybe ease into the syndrome, because they say it's not a disease, but it's a syndrome.
Yeah, right. And you can't ever really get rid of it. It's not a cure, but certainly good treatments and such. And you've got here too, right? So being insulin resistant or obese can increase your likelihood of getting PCOS. Just starting with the obesity, we know that when you're obese, that it definitely affects your estrogen levels. You can have too much estrogen, and then that just throws your whole cycle, your whole balance off, which can increase the risk of those cysts and the ovarian imbalance. So for sure, something to consider. And we always talk about diet and exercise on your show, and the importance of that too. And then if you're insulin resistant, right? So that means you have insulin in your body, which allows your body to use up sugar and glucose for energy and all of that. But the insulin in your body is resistant to doing what it's supposed to do. It's not working well. It's just not working well, which then makes your body actually produce more insulin, because it's thinking you don't have enough. So let me make more insulin. And that producing more insulin, because you're insulin resistant, also can lead to that hormonal imbalance in your system.
So I know they mentioned the type 2 diabetes, or it can lead to type 2 diabetes. So I just wonder, because my daughter is diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So,
right. And I did a little research on that, because I knew that your daughter had type 1. And what I was finding is that 1 in 4 patients with type 1 can also have PCOS. So not unusual. That's 25% of women with type 1 can have PCOS, and in that case, it could show its head when that young lady is trying to now have a menstrual cycle and it's irregular, right? Other symptoms of PCOS like acne, excess hair growth, sometimes dark skin changes, all of those can signal to a physician that maybe there's some hormonal imbalance, and then we check labs and we do other things.
So here's my thing. So her endocrinologist, I love her. She's a Black doctor, and she's just awesome. Like, she listens to her, and anything that she needs to help her manage it better, she makes sure she gets it. So she has the skin tags you was talking about. And so the endocrinologist it wasn't like a big concern for her. She just gave her a referral for the dermatologist and just get it looked at. So we went to 3 or 4 dermatologists, and they biopsied the stuff, and it just came back as some form of eczema. And I'm just wondering why it wasn't linked to that. I'm thinking it's linked to PCOS.
Yeah. But I mean, we think eczema is a different cause than the PCOS, which we call acanthosis nigricans. We like these big words, right? So darkening of usually the flexor parts of your body. So like your neck, your elbows, your armpits, you'll get these darkening spots or skin tags, which is a different cause than eczema, which we think of as more inflammatory, maybe related to allergy or a contact, something you're putting on your skin. But we should think about, that too when we see, because eczema can be confusing because it also occurs in the elbows and armpits and neck. So
yeah. So they did the biopsy, nothing came of it, right? So they said it was eczema, gave her the cream and everything. And the cream works for a little bit, then it doesn't. So then the doctor said, okay, well, maybe you need to see an allergist. So we went to the allergist. Oh my goodness. When I said she was allergic to everything, like
really,
from grass to, it was everything on that list. Cats, dogs. I was just like, what? And so the doctor just really told her, just because we have a dog at home, make sure whenever you're touching the dog, you're washing your hands right after. Like, make sure you're vacuuming because, you know, they leave behind the residue of hair and stuff. Like, it was, when I saw it, I'm just like, how is she supposed to live? And she's allergic to all of this stuff.
Right. Yeah, we see that sometimes, right? Where the person is allergic to all the outdoor and indoor allergens. And so it's difficult to control those symptoms, but you know, we've got hydrocortisone treatments, different strengths. We've also got simple over-the-counter things like your Zyrtec and your allergic medications, which decrease the response to the allergens. Of course, the first thing is to try to avoid the allergen, but how often can you do that when it's all around you, right? So making sure that, as the allergist sounds like they did a great job, make sure she avoids it, shower every night to get all allergens off of you, especially since you have a dog. They do have hypoallergenic type dogs for the future. If she wants to get a dog, there are some dogs that people tend to not be allergic to. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Poor thing.
I know they gave her, the allergist gave her a natural thing that she could do. It sounds weird, but you can take a bleach bath and it kind of like relieves it, you know.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So she did tell her, you know, that's one thing that you can do, and it will relieve it. So I was happy that they were able to give her something natural that she could do for it. But yeah. So I was just wondering, was that linked to the PCOS? But I'm thinking,
yeah, we don't think it is, but there is some thought that there is some inflammatory component to PCOS. And so when you think PCOS, when you think allergies, it's all sort of inflammatory, right? There's also some component of diabetes that's inflammatory. So it's one of those things that you end up saying, well, they all may be a little bit linked because they all have an inflammation component to them, right? And that's an unfortunate part to it, but at least we've got good treatments and good options for that. Again, none of what you're saying is necessarily curable, but we do have good treatment options.
So, I mean, they said, we know that there's not a cure for it, but
right.
There are some things that you can do to live with it and manage it. One of the things that I also came across was having high glucose can lead to PCOS.
Right, because that high glucose means that the insulin is trying to work even more, and there's a component of insulin resistance that comes with diabetes, right? It sort of goes both ways. Having diabetes might increase your risk of PCOS, and having PCOS means you're insulin resistant, which then leads to increased sugars. And so one of the treatment options, you talk about natural options that we talk about that can help to manage PCOS symptoms, and especially that glucose and your weight, is exercise and diet. And so that is really a main focus of treatment because obesity is a factor. Not all PCOS patients are obese. But if you are, we want to make sure that you're exercising, which naturally lowers your sugar because it allows your insulin to work a little bit better.
One of the things that my daughter asked me to ask Dr. Michelle was, why is it when someone is diagnosed with PCOS, the doctors go straight to meds versus what you just said with the diet and exercise?
Yeah, because it sort of depends on what your symptoms are, right? If we know that diet and exercise is always a component of that treatment plan, but if someone has severe acne, or they're having lots of hair symptoms, or their sugar is really out of control, we might offer those sort of medical treatments first, but because we want to give you some relief, whereas maybe the exercise and diet may take a little bit longer to get your symptoms under control. So I am always a proponent of both, depending on how bad your symptoms are. If you're willing to sort of wait, right, and there's nothing that is really bothering you so much, we can do those things. But there's definitely a place for medications, especially, which we haven't really talked about, the infertility piece, right, and controlling your having regular menstrual cycles. You can imagine for a teenage girl who might be in school, right? She wants to know when she's going to have a cycle so she can prepare and all those things. So there is a place for things like birth control pills and medications for those type of symptoms to make living with PCOS a little bit easier.
Exactly. I know when she was diagnosed, we were doing her annual physical. And I guess, the doctor you all asked about the period, and she hadn't had a period for at least 12 months. And the doctor's like, wait, what?
How old is she? Was she?
She was, I want to say 16, because she's 18 now. So she was 16. And so then the doctor, pulled her to the side in a different room, was just asking her questions. I guess mainly want to see, like, are you having sex? What's going on?
Right.
So,
right.
And then, so she came back and she said, she was thinking about doing an exam, but she said she's a virgin, so I'm not going to do that exam. So, and then they didn't mention an ultrasound. I don't know if she just went off of the missed periods, and maybe because she has had the high blood glucose before. I think she's at right now, she's at, her A1C is at an 8, which it was higher than that. So it's, she has managed to bring it down at least to that right now. That was her last appointment less than 3 months ago. So I feel like maybe those two components, because I know you have to have at least 2 out of, the ones that they're looking for that's on the list. So, and then I'm just like, how are you going to diagnose my baby without doing anything to her? You know what I'm saying? Like,
did they draw blood work to check some of the hormone levels?
I don't remember them drawing blood that day, unless she already had the blood and maybe went back and maybe looked at it, or maybe came in with that in mind, from previous blood draw, because they would get it every year too. And by her being a diabetic, she gets it done often.
Right. Yeah, there are different for PCOS, we could check hormone levels, your FSH, LH, progesterone. There's specific hormone levels that can be checked along with your insulin and glucose as well, that can give us an idea. And then we do a good physical exam, right? Do you have what we call hirsutism, which is hair growth where there shouldn't be hair growth, right? Extra fuzz, things like that. At her age, she may not have had that. The changes to the skin, things like that, we all look for to make the diagnosis. But the diagnosis should come along with some of that blood work, because we also want to check your cholesterol, which can be out of whack too.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did hear that too with the cholesterol.
Right. Yeah. So we should, she should be checking all of that just to make sure that all the bases are covered. The endocrinologist should be all over that.
Yeah.
And you can ask about that at the next visit.
The endocrinologist always, she was blood work all the time, right? Okay. And gives it. And since I have the HMO, I have to give it to the general doctor. So they haven't said anything like alarming whenever they did the blood work. So, but I'm thinking when I listened and was doing the research, and they were concerned about her thyroids, and that's one of the things too with PCOS is you may have thyroid issues, and so the only thing,
thyroid issues can have a lot of the same kind of symptoms that PCOS can, because it's all hormonal. Yes. So
yeah. Trust me, my daughter, she's been researching, like, Mom, she's trying to figure out, what's going on with me. And so the doctor, the only thing that she offered she said the only thing that I would offer is a the pill that she gave her to make her cycle come down.
Right.
So she took it, the cycle came down, and then she said she didn't have to take it anymore. She wanted to see if it would come regularly, and it did. It started coming on its own. So yeah.
Right.
So,
Good point. Yes, because once you take a contraceptive or a estrogen progesterone pill
yeah,
and we induce ovulation that one time, sometimes that gets the ball rolling and you
yeah,
don't need it again.
right.
And things fluctuate. So it's good that she knows now and she knows what things to look for. So if things should change in the future, she knows she has options.
Yes. It's a lot. I mean, for a 16-year-old to hear that and to hear that, oh, I may have infertility issues moving forward. Her whole thing is, okay, what can I do diet wise to, maybe ease some of these symptoms or help, so that she may not encounter those things in the future. So
Yeah, and good for her for thinking like that. She's got a good role model. So I would say, right, we talk about the anti-inflammatory type diet for one thing. She should make sure that she's eating plant-based things with color. We talk about your anti-inflammatory foods as the things that have color, your fruits, your vegetables. That is really important. And then making sure that she keeps her weight at a healthy weight to keep her hormones in balance. So a body mass index of 24 or less, and her doctor can, based on her height and weight, tell her where she should be for that. And so for her, those are the most important things because she's 18 and good that she knows this now so she can go forward with those healthy lifestyle.
So, as far as the lifestyle changes to help them manage, you mentioned exercise, you mentioned diet. What about like emotional, psychological?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. De-stress. Try not to worry, right? Get in your zen. Take yoga because we also know that stress affects not only your reproductive hormones, it affects your cortisol levels and your other hormones and thyroid and all of those things. And so I would definitely encourage her to, we talk about exercising outdoors when you can, taking a yoga class, meditating, right? When you're starting to feel stress, I do that a lot. I'll take a deep breath in and out 10 times, and that really sort of clears my head. And so things like that are important for her to start to make a habit.
Yes. If you are tuned in to Warriors Talk right here on Intellectual Radio, I'm speaking with Dr. Michelle Meeks, and we're talking about breaking the silence, understanding PCOS. And I'm sure that each of us knows someone who has it, and they just haven't said anything about it, or they may not even know that they have it, Dr. Michelle.
Yes, because again, it's not something we talk about and it's something we just think that's just how my body is, not knowing that you have treatment options and that we should find out, what's going on. We always talk on your show about making sure you're getting your annual checkup, right? Because it's that at those visits that we ask those questions. Oh, how are your cycles? Are you gaining weight? Do you have any rashes? All these things we ask for that seem like innocuous and we're just asking questions, but in our brains we're thinking, oh, well, these things go together. Let me go down this road and ask you some more questions. Let's check some blood work. Let's see what might be causing that.
So would that be your advice to give someone who may suspect that they have PCOS now that they're hearing this show?
Yes, I would definitely, if you are thinking that you could have PCOS, maybe you've been having irregular periods, for years. Maybe you have excess acne. Maybe you think, oh, I'm just a little overweight. But to a provider, we see 1, 2, 3 things. We're like, oh, well, maybe we need to check, and maybe there's a reason that this is what's going on. So I would always say start with seeing your doctor first. Go with some questions like you're hearing us talk today, right? Go with some questions and some thoughts about what you think it could be, because sometimes providers aren't thinking PCOS first, right? We might not be thinking that. We might be thinking if you have irregular periods or heavy periods that maybe you have fibroids. We've talked about that before on your show. But there's lots of other things that could be going on, but we need to see you first in order to diagnose that.
What about PCOS and menopause?
Yeah, so we usually by the time you're menopause, right, those hormones are declining, right, as you get closer to menopause. We usually will see people coming in with PCOS symptoms, usually in the teens and even 20s, 30s, 40s, right? Depending on what's going on, you can develop it at any time of your life. Sometimes by the time you get to menopause, some of those symptoms are getting a little bit better. Hopefully.
Hopefully. So we talked about some of the PCOS symptoms. You mentioned acne, abnormal hair growth, darkening of the skin, and like the creases of your arms, under your arms, irregular periods, weight gain. So if anybody is experiencing any of these symptoms, I would say write them down, because sometimes when we go to the doctor, we forget and we leave there and we be like, ooh, I meant to say this. Write those symptoms down. And when you go to the doctor, or even email a doctor ahead of time, we all have the portal. You can email the doctor ahead of time and say, hey, this is what I've been dealing with. And so the doctor can ahead of time, go through, process of elimination to determine what it could be.
Yes.
I wouldn't just sit on it, because like you said, not having a regular period, that would alarm me, like, oh, either I'm pregnant or like something's wrong.
Right.
Something's wrong. So
right. And it's really about your quality of life, right? And then too, if you're in the reproductive age and you may be thinking about planning a family at some point, you want to know what's going on so that we can plan, right? For patients with PCOS who are not planning to have a child, we can put you on birth control pills or talk about other options. If you're trying to have a child, because you can have children when you have PCOS, right? We can do other things. We can either, on the one end of the spectrum is send you to an infertility specialist and, go down that road of taking medications to induce ovulation so that you can have a cycle. Or it's, just measuring and making sure that you are ovulating at all, because sometimes you're ovulating just very irregularly. And if you can know when you are, you can plan activity around that time.
So having PCOS does not mean that you won't ever have kids for some women.
Absolutely. You can still get pregnant with the help of some medications to induce ovulation and other things. And, fertility and infertility has been in the news a lot lately, but we have great treatment options to assist with fertility, from in vitro fertilization to medications to help induce ovulation so you can have children.
You know what I heard, Dr. Michelle? They said that with the treatment, sometimes it results in multiple births.
Yes, I was going to mention that, right? Because what it does is it stimulates the ovaries to produce those eggs and to produce mature eggs, right? It's really, and that's where you get the risk of multiple births. And so when someone goes to an infertility specialist, they always will ask, and it's probably in their paperwork, that you would be okay with a multiple birth, because they're not really they're going to make you carry that multiple birth for the most part. And so you've got to say, I'm going to be okay with that, whether it's 1, 2, or 5.
Wow. Well, I guess it would be great for someone who probably thought they couldn't. And then all of a sudden, especially if you could just go through it one time and get them all out the way, like that would be just great. Wow.
Yeah, and for the most part, it's usually twins. If it's going to be multiple, it's very unlikely to have 8 babies, right, which we've heard of, but
that would still
quite rare.
Yeah, that would be special, especially for someone who thought they couldn't, and everything that you go through to have them, and you could just knock 2 out in one birth. Okay, let's go.
Right.
Let's go. Right. Now, I also heard that the keto diet, I don't know, they have some proof behind it, because the doctor that was talking said he did an experiment on his patients, and he put them on a keto diet. And these are women that have been trying to get pregnant for a while. Put them on the keto diet. They came back, and I think he said like 3 or 4 of them were pregnant when they came back.
I have not heard that. You're going to have to send that to me.
I'm going to send you the video.
Yeah, so I can look at that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was like, oh, wow. So, and these were women that were trying for a while to get pregnant, and then once they did the keto diet, then they were able to get pregnant.
Interesting. I wonder if with that, if they check hormones, the hormone levels before and during and after the diet, just to see how it's affecting those hormone levels, right? Because that's something definitely to think about, right? Because again, we think of food as medicine, and food is medicine. And so if we think about it that way, there's definitely a place for that in all these medical problems that we talk about. We talk about that a lot, right? We can write a prescription, but we don't want to have to do that.
Yes, absolutely. I want to get into some of these myths that come along with PCOS. Because you know, there's a lot of them out there that would have people scared out of their minds when they hear about PCOS. So we want to clear up some of these myths that are out there. The first one that I have is, you did something to cause this.
Absolutely not. It is not your fault, right? Because we know that it just comes on. We don't know what the cause is. We think there's some genetic factors, maybe some environmental factors, but we don't know for sure. So unfortunately, 25% of women can get PCOS, and we just don't know that.
So ladies, you didn't do anything to cause
No.
that. Myth number 2, if you lose weight, you can get rid of PCOS.
Right. So we said there's no cure for PCOS, but we know that having a BMI, a body mass index, and a good normal weight can help control the symptoms of PCOS, but no definitive cure, but lots of good treatments.
Yeah. And it's a good thing to lose weight anyway, especially if you are not in your right weight class for health benefits. That's right. Number 3, PCOS is a rare condition.
No, I think I said 25% of women, but that's 25% of type 1 diabetics. But 5 to 10% of women overall can have PCOS. And so it's quite common. It's not very rare. It's just that people aren't really talking much about it, except with maybe their doctor, right? If they do that. So don't be ashamed, but if you're having certain symptoms, go and get them checked out.
I was going to say that maybe some people may feel like, I don't know, it's a shame that comes along with it, especially when it deals with infertility. You just like,
right. Why me? Why can't I get pregnant when all my friends can? Yeah.
And then if you're dating, like, should I tell this to this person or wait until they become a husband, then tell them? Like, they may want to plan a family and have to disclose this information. That's a lot.
That is a lot. But again, getting back to, there's so many great options for infertility now, right? And even simple things like we talk about lifestyle, de-stressing, exercising, those things can relax you enough to get your hormones in balance.
Yeah. All right. Number 4, myths about PCOS. You can't get pregnant if you have PCOS. I think we covered that.
Definite myth, because we know that, with PCOS, a couple of things. You're not ovulating regularly, right? So, but you can ovulate once in a while. So don't think just because you have PCOS, you should have unprotected sex, because you might ovulate 1 month and you could get pregnant. And then we know, even if that's not happening, that there are medications to help induce ovulation, like with your daughter, right? You give that medication once, it sort of kicks things off, and then hopefully she won't have any trouble in the future. But if she does, there are options.
There are options. Number 4, PCOS only affects overweight women.
Definitely not true, right? Being overweight increases the risk of PCOS, because when you're overweight, it already puts some stress on the hormonal balance. but anyone can get PCOS.
Mm-hmm. There you have it, you guys. Dr. Michelle, can you give some information for anyone who may be maybe just diagnosed with PCOS and they're trying to figure out how they're going to manage this type of lifestyle?
Yeah, thank you, Lady ReShell. So the first thing is take a deep breath, don't panic, right? Because this is a very manageable condition. We have great medical treatments and education to help get you through it. Even though there's not a cure, there's great treatment options, from simply lifestyle changes, eating better, exercising, de-stressing your life. Those things can help you manage your symptoms. And then if you're having some of those symptoms that we talked about, talk to your doctor, because we can manage those as well with certain medications. We always talk about don't suffer in silence. Denial never cured anything. So definitely have those conversations with your provider. If you are trying to get pregnant, know that there's great options available for you with infertility treatments. Certainly speak with your doctor about that as well. And if you're not trying to get pregnant, we can have the option and discussion about oral contraceptive treatments to help regulate your hormones.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle, for that. Can you let everybody know how to stay connected with you?
Yes, they can find me on Facebook at Dr. Michelle. That's my Facebook handle, or Dr. Michelle's Healthy Life Solutions. They can also tag me with your show, and they can reach me there. I am available for any, talks with churches, schools, anything like that. I love to educate our community about different medical topics.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. I appreciate you. And congratulations on your award on Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to service the community.
You're welcome. You guys don't go anywhere. Stay right here on Intellectual Radio. Coming up next is Pillow Talk with God. And I just want to highlight my sponsor, Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay. She's catering to all of your beauty needs from head to toe. You can go to her website, marykay.com/GDOTSON. Please make sure you tell her that Warriors Talk sent you. And Warriors Talk is always looking for individuals to share their story. Testimonial Monday, where you can educate and empower individuals with your cancer journey or your survival story. Just inbox me. I'm ready. You guys join me next Monday right here on Intellectual Radio. As always, Warriors Talk is changing lives one warrior at a time. And my people have left. Hello. Here she goes. I'm going to give y'all some words of wisdom while she is on her way in here. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. And I guarantee you, with a diagnosis of PCOS, it will bring out whatever strong characteristics you have with any diagnosis. All right, you guys, I will see you next Monday right here on Intellectual Radio at 6 p.m.
To this week's edition of Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell. To find out more about Warriors Talk, follow at Warriors Talk, the number 1, on all social media outlets, and Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell on YouTube. Please join us next week and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on IntellectualRadio.com for Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell, where we encourage, educate, and empower you into action.